Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Smart Talks by the Elizabeth Smart Foundation. I am Elizabeth Smart, and I'm here with my co-host, Mio Strong, who I'm actually going to turn it over to her today to introduce our incredible guest. Mio, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today, we have a really special guest. Her name is Claudia Duvall. She is the #1 ranked female black belt in the world under the IBJJF ranking system. And not only is she an incredible athlete, she is also an incredible woman. And I've been following your jiu-jitsu journey for years. You've been one of my idols for a long time. So thank you for joining us. We are honored that you're here to share your story with us and to help shed some light in some areas that I feel like athletes, women all over the country, not even just the United States. Obviously, this is your home country is Brazil, your home training is Brazil, but this is a worldwide problem. So thank you for being here. Do you mind sharing with us just a brief overview of the middle of what you're in right now?
So recently I had an interview at Paola Diana's YouTube channel. In this interview, I've recently come forward with a story that's been, stuck in my throat for over 5 years. It's not anymore because I finally spoke out against it. And the interview is pretty shocking because it involves, people that are very well known in the jiu-jitsu world, not just me, but another person that is very well known. And recently I've told of something that happened with me in 2015. It was a huge trauma in my life. It was something I've been carrying for a long time, like I said, something, that made me confused. I didn't really understand what was happening or how bad it actually was, but I finally spoke out on it on this interview. I think maybe later we can put a link directly so people can watch and understand. Those who haven't watched yet can watch and understand fully what I'm talking about.
Yes, and this famous, you're famous in the jiu-jitsu community, of course, and this person that's involved is as well, to the point where there's even a move named after him, a complete, guard system. And I know there's a lot of rumblings within the community that supports you to end using that name, come up with a different name. Many people have mentioned naming it after you, but I realize maybe you're not comfortable with it.
I've seen some posts or some people saying that they're never going to use that name again. Well, I appreciate the support. I'm not sure about naming it the Duval Guard because honestly, I don't use that guard that much. But it's like I said, like you were saying, like a lot of people saw it and they're offering support. And I'm very, very grateful for all the support that I've been receiving.
And have you seen equal support from the male athletes as well as the women? Or is it more coming from the female community? I imagine it's pretty divisive amongst the team members.
The support is way bigger in the female community because lately females have, joined forces to fight against every kind of disrespect or inequality between males and females. So a lot of women fighting on my side. Also because most of the women have gone through a situation like this. Like it's very hard to find a female that hasn't been in an uncomfortable situation created by a male person. Even if it's just a tiny little bit, so many females have had a bad experience. And even after my interview, so many girls, they reach out to me and they told me their stories that they never had the courage to come forward with. So like I think mostly females have been on my side because they have been through something similar. And a few guys also have offered support, even if they haven't been through it, but they're like, oh, this is unacceptable. I'm very sorry for this. But obviously, like every person that comes out with their story, they get, backlash from people saying like, why did it take you so long to say it? Like, why did you keep training there? Why did you keep working there? Why did you keep going to that place? Like, they don't understand how hard it is, or how confusing it can be. A lot of people, they don't understand what really happened to them years and years before it happened. So you always get those comments from people saying like, oh, if you didn't say no, then it's your fault. Or if you didn't if it took you so long to say something, it's because you liked it. If you kept training there, it's because you enjoyed it. You always get those comments, which is, I mean, I knew I was going to get them, so I was prepared there. And obviously there's the people there are, personal friends and students of my ex coach. And obviously they're outraged at me, because I talked a little about it on my interview with Paola, that the jiu-jitsu has a bit of like a cultish, like, behavior. So like you have your professor, but it's not just that. If some people, they see their professor like a saint like figure, so they have this like a cultish experience. So obviously in their eyes, like a saint can never do wrong. So obviously they either don't believe me, or they say like, oh, it can't have happened like you said, or you are somehow at fault for this.
I mean, kind of what you're talking about kind of reminds me of the case well, it's now coming to an end in the US, but the U.S. Olympic gymnastics team with their
Yes,
Larry Nasser. Like what you're
watched
is exactly like, that's what's going through my head.
I watched this documentary recently and I was outraged. I mean, that guy was a doctor for 20 years. He molested over 500 children. Because those girls are children before somebody did something. So like the first girl, she said something about it. I think it was 97, and they were like, well, we haven't had any complaints like this, so you're lying. And then like another person saying something. So like I think it started with 3 women saying something until we finally they went public with it, and then more and more girls kept calling them and said, yeah, I've been through that too. And then in the end it was like over 500. So it's
ridiculous.
crazy.
But he was like the Olympic team's doctor. He was like a big deal. You were really lucky if you got in to see him. He was like the miracle worker, and I'm just so appalled, because kind of what you're talking about how within the jiu-jitsu culture, your mentor, your trainer, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. You're really lucky to train with them. They are, they have so much influence and so much, I mean, really power over their students, their trainees. And this is everything that I hate. This is everything that I work against.
Before what happened to me, I used to be exactly like this. I used to view him like a powerful overall picture. I had him in a pedestal. Like he was everything for me. And like I had him as a father, as a friend, as a mentor, as everything. And I would die for him in a second. So like that's the kind of I had to learn the hard way that that's how you that's something you shouldn't, like, you should never, I think relationships should always be like this, like, I'll die for you, but you die for me also. So it's never like this. And I was like this. I had, you know, adoration towards him. Like, in my eyes, he was the best person ever in the world. And I think, like, it's important to, you know, to talk to people about this, and like, and not encourage this kind of, you know, behavior, not only in jiu-jitsu, but always also, like, you know, some people are crazy, you know, like, fans about, like, TV stars, movie stars, or singers, everything. Like, it's okay to have an idol, but you have to understand that they're just a human being. Like, they're not a better human being than you are. And you should never, you know, devote yourself to somebody that doesn't feel the same way about you.
And tell me, how old were you when you started training with there?
I was 21 when I started training there.
And you are, how old are you now?
I'm 32.
32. So you left how long ago?
I left the gym September last year, so almost a year now.
Okay. And where are you now?
With gym I'm training?
Yes. Where did you? Yes.
I'm training with Soul Fighters.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And it's a complete, now that you've switched. I mean, I left a gym environment, and a lot has been put out there about toxic gym environments and how hard it is. I mean, it's hard enough to get women to stay in the sport, let alone add into it all these other cultural, you know, generational things that is an unhealthy atmosphere. And if you can find a healthy environment, I feel like that's where you find the women a lot of times, is we tend to gravitate together. So if there's a big women's team at a gym, that's an indicator, I feel like, of a healthy training environment. Is that what helped you decide Soul Fighters?
So the thing is, when I decided to leave in September, I was, you know, looking for a new place, maybe permanent, maybe not. So I was just like in a hurry to leave. And I had friends and Soul Fighters. I'm actually, like, not training at the gym. I just joined the affiliation because I also travel a lot. So I didn't really, you know, had, you know, one fixed place to train. Also, like, I traveled a lot, and since I came back to Brazil, like, the pandemic started, so, like, I didn't really have, you know, like, a fixed place. So I went there because of the friendship I had with the health coach, because I've had contact with him and another friend of mine from Soul Fighters, and they always, you know, like, helped me out a lot. Always, you know, they were there for me when I needed.
Yeah. And so recently there's been a pretty well-known gym in Brazil that just kicked out all of their female members. And that is mind-blowing to me, that that's legal or allowed, or that there's not a huge uproar from the female community, let alone the male community. I would think all men that train jiu-jitsu would want to train in a school that is a healthy, progressive gym.
Yeah, so, like, the same school where my coach, I had a problem with my coach, is the same school that just kicked out all female, which is, you know, weird if you look at the whole scenario. But yeah, so as far as I know of the story, because I still have friends, I had friends that they were not training there after my interview, because my interview came out during the pandemic, and we're still in the pandemic. So the school has been closed for this whole time. But they were planning on opening it. So the girls that were training there before the pandemic, they all received the same message on their phones, all of them, over 10 women. So they received a message saying, "Dear," their name, we inform you that mixed class are no longer going to exist. maybe in the future we're gonna have female exclusive classes, but for now you're welcome to call the gym and get your money back if you have any money to receive, and that's all, and then signed by the coach. So that was the message that every single girl received. So basically it said that they cannot train in the mixed class, and then maybe in the future when they have a female only class they can train, but for now they can get their money back. So they weren't expelled, they were just, you know, put to wait until a female only class arrives.
They were made to feel worthless and like they don't matter to that coach because they no longer have a place at that gym. I'm so like irate that that's how that was. But you're correct in that it's very interesting that it's happening at that gym.
It's very, very weird, of course, and obviously, like, there was a huge outrage from the female community. Even Roger Gracie actually made a post about, you know, his feelings on this. Because obviously women felt left out, like, so like if mixed class are not going to happen anymore, why are the boys staying and not us? So like it's obviously there was a huge outrage on that matter, and I think like the school tried, you know, clear things out a few times, but their messages were a little confusing, and it didn't really agree with what they were doing, because so they sent this, you know, official notes to some magazines, and all of them said that actually what they were trying to do is focus on women empowerment. So how do you empower women? By telling them they can't train in the mixed class, and they don't even have a female only class yet. Another message, another one of those notes said that the message, because like one of the girls made a post, and that post, you know, went viral. So another official note from the school said that the girl was basically lying, just said that she was, you know, like what she was saying was untrue, and that the message was actually leaked. So you send a message to over 10 women on their personal phone, and you sign it with your name, and then you say the message was leaked. That I know. So like, and then on another note, they said it was actually because of the pandemic. They were trying, you know, to separate the classes and then have, you know, a big number of women in just one class. So like, so they sent these notes to a few magazines, and like I said, all of them had this thing about women empowerment, and some of them had the thing about leaking message, the other one had the thing about the pandemic, just trying. So like, I don't think those were, personally, I don't think those were very good messages. I think like if you made a mistake, you should recognize it and apologize for it, not, you know, trying to make something up. Like even in the comments, I saw this girl making this comment, is like, when a guy is caught cheating and he says, oh, that's not what you're thinking, it's basically, you know, saying this, like, you
like
should
gaslighting,
like,
the women's community.
yeah, so you should I think that if you make a mistake, you should recognize your mistake and apologize for it, not try and turn your mistake into, you know, something beautiful, something pretty.
Yeah, own it.
And just for like the record, how often do women train with men? I mean, how often are trainings in mixed classes? Is it all the time, or is it
all the time? Because like unfortunately we don't have enough women to have, you know, a female only class, now especially for competitors. So as I started training jiu-jitsu, from starting competing and then no, starting training, starting competing and competing at the highest levels, I've trained with men my whole life. I would love, you know, to have had women to train with from the start, you know, high level women that I could train with from the start, you know, having a class every day with 40, even 20 women. I would love that. But unfortunately, that's not a reality yet. I do believe that in the future, we are going to have, you know, super, you know, full classes with only women. But and on these days, nowadays, you need men to train with you.
So basically, if a gym's come out and say there'll be no mixed classes, that's saying there's no women allowed at this school.
No,
that's
because
a sentence for that gym as far as women are concerned.
Because like they were saying maybe in the future we're gonna have female exclusive classes. So what I understand from that message is, for now, there are no female only classes, maybe in the future. But even so, like if you make female only classes, are you gonna make it every day of the week? Are girls gonna have the same amount of training as guys do? Because many gyms, they have mixed class and a female exclusive class, which is optional. Girls can go there if they want. So they can train at the mixed class and they can train at the female only class. And
just for like clarity's sake, how often do you train?
Every day of the week.
Every day of the week. So if they only have one female exclusive class a week and you're not allowed into mixed classes, that means you're only training once a week. I mean, I'm not a jiu-jitsu fighter at all. Great admirer, learning more from Mio all the time. But I mean, I play an instrument, I play music, and I know if I only practice once a week, I sound like crap. There's just no other way of putting it. I don't sound good. For me to sound good, I have to practice every day. And I imagine
exactly
the same way.
And I have friends that like I said, it all happened during the pandemic, but before the pandemic, they were training there. And they are not athletes. They train for the sport because they love it. And they train every day of the week because they love training it. So even if it's somebody who is just an amateur, but you take away their joy of training every single day, like, why would you do that?
Well, and it's just that discrimination of equal opportunity, right? If you're going to have not let there be co-ed training, then the men's opportunity needs to be equal to the women's opportunity.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing. I mean, I feel like females in jiu-jitsu, you especially have personal experience with organizations not paying the women equally to the men, which comes back from that culture and that cult-like, you know, idolization. There weren't many women. I mean, the women like you that are highly successful black belts have had to fight, claw, scratch, you know, to get to the top. You've had way bigger obstacles in front of you, I feel like, than any of the male athletes. Not taking anything away from their journey, of course, yeah. But as a female in a male-dominated sport, I mean, would you say it's fair to say 80% of the BJJ athletes are men? What do you think the split is?
I think it's probably like 80%. I don't know. Like I could take a look at like you know, a regular tournament and see how many guys and women we have, but I would guess maybe something around like 70% male and 30% male. Like, but like we were saying, like women have fought way too hard. They've been fighting for years against this discrimination. So like you said, a lot of tournaments, like they don't pay equally the male and the female athletes, but women have fought, you know, so much for it that you know, the tournaments now they are, you know, putting equal pay, mostly because they know that if they if they have a tournament and the pay is different, they know they're gonna get so much, you know,
Backlash.
on them, so they don't even do it anymore. So like they've been offering the same you know, opportunity for male and female.
Yeah. And what do you think women in our community can do to support each other better? Because like you said, it's not your story. While it is headline news because of who you are and who's involved, women across the board in this sport are dealing with similar things. And what do you think moving forward? I mean, what can we do to help support each other better?
I think like you should you know, bring the word to the most people you can, because like I was saying, like the thing with the tournaments, like people don't even do the tournaments with you know, different pays because they know they're gonna get the backlash. So today, like things, they were, unfortunately, people, they don't care much about being decent, but they care about the backlash. So if you can't force them to be a decent human being, you can at least make them afraid of the backlash they're gonna get from society. So I think it's important, you know, like someone's you know, they come out with their story or something, you have to make it so that most people can see. And for example, if you're against something, it doesn't you can't just be like, oh, I don't like it, but then like not doing anything about it. So like, for example, let's say that you know, a particular brand, they do testing on animals, and I don't like testing on animals. I'm against it. So it helps nothing if I go there and make a post about it, like, oh, they're crazy, but then I go and I buy their products, you know, stuff like that. So they should like you know, do something about it. So, or for example, they're like you know, like for example, I'm failing to find more examples, but I'm like, what I'm trying to say is like, if you can't like disagree, I mean, you can, but you shouldn't like disagree with something and then keep buying that product or keep supporting it. So I think it's important, like, for example, I've seen this happen with sometimes with guys. They're training in a gym where the head coach is being mean to other students, and they're like, I don't agree, but you keep training there. I know it's hard to change gyms. I'm not gonna, you know, judge anybody on it, because even after what happened to me, it took me years to finally leave the gym. So I'm not judging anybody, but I'm saying, like, if you see something you don't like, you should, not you should, but it would be cool if you did something about it. So like, I don't agree with the way things are happening here, so I'm leaving.
Yeah,
You know?
actually take action.
Yeah, so like, I think like, for, you know, is the smallest possible action you can take, but try and take actions, you know, like to help people that you see, you know, are going through a hard time.
Yeah, send a message, make a phone call, send an email, just showing support and solidarity, because like, as you've experienced, I've experienced the same thing. The trolls online will definitely not hold back. And what helps those of us who then are the, you know, the target for them is the positive messages and the positive impact, and the people that do reach out and you know, show their support for you within, you know, the community, whether it's a public post or even just a private message. It kind of helps arm you to face all of the BS, troll,
Yeah.
backlash, you know, people who have no concept of what you're going through. They just judge you and criticize you and try and hurt you, which still blows my mind that people you don't even know personally attack you just because.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you see so many people being so mean on the internet, and I'm not talking just about my case. I see like sometimes like on the comments, like somebody posts a fight, and sometimes it's like a heavier opponent, and they're like, oh, uh, it's it helps when you're fat, or something
Yeah.
mean. And
Yeah.
I always think to myself, I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, do you have something, like, it is a person that you personally hate for some reason? Because, like, why would you hurt someone's feelings for free? Like, why would you do that? And I think a lot of people, they lack empathy. They're just gonna say something mean, and they don't even stop and think about it. Like, what if it was me? Like, how would I think if I read something mean on the internet?
And tell us how you have personally dealt with this. Like, what do you do to counteract that? Like, how do you keep going? How do you stay strong?
So, like, when my interview came out, because I was telling you, backstage, that actually, like, when I went out for this interview, like, if people watch the whole interview, like, we talk about several things. It's an hour-long interview, so I was talking about several things, and I wasn't planning on talking about my case on the interview. It wasn't planned. I didn't get there and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna talk about this. It's just as something that's been stuck, here for over 5 years. And when the time came when, like, we approached the subject, I just vomited everything and I just talked about everything. And so after I gave the interview, I was so scared because I was like, oh my God, I finally said it. I was so scared to let it go live that I made the interviewer postpone for over a month, I think, until finally letting it, go live. Because I knew what kind of backlash I was gonna get, and I was preparing for it. Like, I knew it was coming, and but I mean, it doesn't matter how much you prepare, it's still gonna hurt you. It's still gonna infuriate. Like, what people are gonna say, but when they say it, you just get so mad. And so first of all, I knew it was coming, but I tried and stay away from those comments. Like, many of the comments, I didn't even read them because I knew it was gonna be something mean.
Personally, I think you're such a role model. For talking about it, because sharing our personal experiences, yes, it absolutely makes you vulnerable and it's scary and it's terrifying. But unless we share our experiences, people don't know that there's a problem. People don't realize that there's something bad going on. And if people don't know that there's something bad going on, how is it ever going to change? Predators aren't going to change their predatory ways. They're going to keep on. They're going to keep on. They're going to keep on being predators until they're caught or until they're stopped. And so I just think that the way that you have come forward about what came on, about what happened to you, even though it took you 5 years to talk about it, I think I've experienced so many survivors and women, and not just women, men too, coming forward and talking to me and being like, I've never been able to tell anyone this before. It happened 40 years ago or 20 years ago, or it happened a long time ago, and I've just been too scared to talk about it. And now it's been so long, why would anyone care? But
Yes, people, they never tell their story. They just never do.
you're just such a beautiful example of strength and honestly vulnerability, and to me vulnerability means power. And so I just think you're amazing and incredible, and I have to thank you so much for agreeing to take time out of your busy life and being on our podcast, because it is so important for everyone to understand how big and broad and wide all of these issues expand, whether it's misconduct or equal rights or much darker things. None of these issues are okay, and we will only see change as we share our stories. So to everyone watching today, let Claudia be an example to you. Whatever it is that you've experienced, it doesn't matter how much time has passed. It is always a good time to share your story. That being said, I certainly would never judge anyone for not sharing the worst moments of their life.
Exactly.
There is no shame in not saying anything, but I also want to say there is no shame in sharing what happens. I mean, it is up to you, and it is through sharing and speaking out and talking about difficult subjects that we see change happen. So with all of the love that I have, and with all of the care and empathy that I have, and I know Mio has, and I know Claudia has, do not be afraid to speak out if you are in trouble. Do not be afraid to leave a situation if you are being mistreated. Do not be afraid to stand up for yourself, because you absolutely are worth it, and you deserve to be safe, and you deserve to find your place in life without living in fear. And so with that being said, I just want to say thank you to Claudia so much again. It's been just an absolute pleasure meeting you and talking to you and listening to you speak for a little bit. I am going to become one of your biggest fans moving forward.
Oh, thank you.
Claudia, seriously, what you're doing for women in jiu-jitsu, just as an athlete, let alone now an advocate, man, my just love and support and respect for you has just grown since this whole thing has blown up for you. And we are always here at the foundation to help in any way we can. And we really, really appreciate, I know you train, I'm sure, twice a day, every day, and are busy. And we really appreciate you making us a priority and coming on and sharing today.
Thank you. Also, I just want to add to what you said, like a lot of people don't tell their stories because they think they're at fault, which was exactly my case. Like I never, I mean, I told very few number of people because I always thought, well, I never thought it was my fault, but I thought they would think that it was my fault. So I never told anybody because like, whoa, how am I going to tell that if it's my fault? Like if they're going to, and so if anybody went through any, situation where they felt embarrassed or they didn't like it, and if you think it's your fault, 99.9% it's not your fault. So like everybody that, that thinks they're at fault, like just talk to somebody, anybody, and they're going to tell you exactly that. It's not your fault.
That is, I couldn't have said it better. Yes, I'm so glad you brought that point up before ending that, because that is so true. Nobody wakes up thinking, oh, today's like a great day to be raped, or today's a great day to go get in trouble. I mean, nobody thinks that. And so I'm so glad, Claudia, you brought that up. Absolutely. If something has happened to you, it's not your fault.
Not your fault. Yes.
It's not your fault. So thank you again, Claudia. And thank you, everyone, to tuning in to another episode of Smart Talks. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. Make sure to stay tuned for next week's episode. Thank you again so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.